Get your hands up! What's the matter with you? Back away, keep your hands where I can see them!
If you're walking up and you see a bunch of people standing in there with their hands up or laying on the ground, first thing you're gonna do is call the police. Hi, I'm Kane Vincent Dyer. Over a period of 2.5 years, I did approximately over 100 bank robberies. Today, I'm back to look at more bank robbery scenes and some great movies and to judge how real it is.
All right, calm down.
It is absolutely on point. Truck robberies are quite common. I think there was just one in Los Angeles a week ago. They said they had taken like 30,000. I think after review, it came down to 15,000. That's actually considerably small for hitting an armored car. The reason for that, that's where the banks get the money from. With that said, you're increasing your level of danger 100-fold. You know, those security guards from armored car trucks are trained to shoot back and defend that money. It's a lot different than the thinking of a bank can typically be to let you have it and just to get you out of there.
Any units in the area? 61 in progress.
I actually use police scanners in a lot of my bank heists. I would tap into the police activity within an area, knowing when they're coming, knowing how much time you have left inside. So yes, it's absolutely something that a gang of that caliber would have.
Let's go, let's go!
We also see that they switched cars after the robbery, which is very, very, very common. All the cars that they're using are stolen, more than likely, right? Instead of stealing a car, what I would do is I would find that make and model of the car that I had, and I would steal the license plate off an identical car. There are a lot of guys and crews that are out there that are like that. You have to give the town a 10.
What can I do you for, officer?
Why are you closed?
We're gonna leave one by one. Nobody raise their head. Do not get up.
I've gone into banks yelling, you know, to take control. When I actually talk to bank employees one-on-one, when I'm instructing them to do something, it's in a very soft tone, that ability to adapt to a situation. And you see the difference between when he's in the bank talking to the customers and then when he switches his personality to deal with the police officer.
Down! Pig's not working, Danny. I told you this thing's a pig.
The car not working in that scene. You'd like to think that you'd have a perfectly operational vehicle when you go do a bank robbery. But hey, things happen sometimes. I actually think that is where you have a lot of bank robbers leave the car going, or they'll park right in front. There's less effort in getting in and starting up the car. They can just get in and go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Move, 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 move.
Get outside now! Hold time. SWAT.
We see that there are undercover police officers outside casing the bank also and waiting. Years later, when I turned myself in, I was told that they would actually do that. The special FBI agent who was attached to my case, he would put teams together and they would go sit in front of banks and case banks looking for me to see if I was either casing a bank or robbing a bank. And it was all guessing work for them because I wouldn't leave too much of a roadmap for them, but it is something that absolutely happens when they have bigger gangs that are doing multiple robberies or multiple robberies have happened within an area in a short time. There's a lot of special effects in there and things like that, but it's pretty accurate. I'd give it an 8.
Get your hands up! What's the matter with you? Back away, keep your hands where I can see them!
In so many bank robberies, we actually witness the robbers coming in and yelling at customers and tellers alike to get down or to raise their hands. That's something that I definitely stayed away from. The thought process behind doing that is to have absolute control of the movement. I never asked anyone to lay on the floor or lift their hands. If you're a customer walking up to the bank and you see a bunch of people standing in there with their hands up or laying on the ground, you're not going to enter. First thing you're going to do is call the police.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are the ex-presidents.
We see the bank robbery crew wearing the president's mask, the rubber mask. One of the bad things about wearing a mask, you're alerting people that probably something's going to take place here. I would wear glasses and a baseball hat because I wanted more so the element of surprise and to make certain that no one saw me walking up to the bank ready to commit a robbery.
Time, Mr. Carter. 60. Let's go.
In and out in 90 seconds.
To be in and out in a minute and a half, pretty much right on the money. Typically, once you go into a bank and the alarm is set, depending on where law enforcement is in relation to the bank, it'll typically take about a minute and a half. You have a group of guys that are all going after the drawers. And depending on the location of the bank, they're probably not leaving with a big dollar amount. But I think their thing is quantity. Do a lot of these things get in, get out, versus spending too much time trying to take on the vault. But for the most part, whenever you have a group-style bank robbery, it seems to be the method that they prefer, the overwhelming, the yelling, and things like that. So, Point Break, gotta give it a 10. I don't know any of those petitions that exist, but I've definitely seen preventative devices like that. A lot of the bulletproof windows, there's this double doors that was created. Well, the way it's set up now in a lot of banks that have been robbed a lot is once you go through that first door on the way out, they have a mechanism that can lock the door to outside where you actually get stuck in the middle there. Me personally, I never put my hands on anyone. I just always felt like the minute you start assaulting people, you really add a whole nother layer of fear, which just completely can shut someone down. The biggest regret that I actually have is, though I never physically harmed someone in any of the banks I did, there's still a psychological toll that of trauma that people absolutely can take on that I didn't account for. So for me, part of my penance wasn't just turning myself in and doing a prison sentence voluntarily. It was also immersing myself in victim impact, which I've done over the years, over the last 10 years. Worked with a lot of victims of violent crime.
Come on. What about him? Come on. Let's go. What about him?
I have definitely aborted several bank robbery attempts. One was purely instinct. And sure enough, within 2 minutes of me sitting there, an unmarked Fed car pulled out, 2 federal agents got out. Another time is I did have an individual aggress towards me. And since I did know that the only way around this was gonna be through a confrontation, I aborted immediately. There was just some inconsistencies there, so I'm gonna give it a 4. We see them going into the bank during a rainstorm. To be quite honest, those were my favorite times to do a bank robbery. Why? Because you don't stand out when you have on a big jacket. You don't stand out if you have a hood over your head. And there's less people paying attention to things. I used to believe that taking everybody's cell phone and things like that was kind of a waste of time just because it would add a significant layer of timing for me. By the time they make the call, you should be in and out already. And just disguising yourself properly so they weren't capturing images of you.
Take a deep breath and relax. We're here to rob the bank, not you.
We do hear him telling the customers, hey, this is the bank's money, not your money. I absolutely thought robbing banks was a victimless crime because I was stealing the institution's money, not a mom and pop or a store or an individual. Unfortunately, It's not correct thinking just because of what I mentioned in the past, because you don't include someone's trauma. I personally never attempted to knock out a security system, solely because what I was doing was hitting a vault and getting out really quick, right? In and out. With that said, I have done interviews on groups that have absolutely severed security systems, built tunnels up under the bank. The guys that do those things are typically going for banks that have multi-millions of dollars. I can absolutely see a crew going about it this way, even making some of the mistakes that they're making. I'm gonna give it about a 7.
All right, give me your gun then. All right, everybody sit down. Everybody sit down on the floor.
Deciding to hit a bank with or without a security guard is interesting to me. A lot of security guards are also trained not to react aggressively. Most security guards are there as a deterrent, as a visual deterrent, and others are there simply to be a professional witness versus stopping a bank robbery.
Ladies behind the counter, keep your hands visible, not on the alarms, okay?
We see him tell the bank employees not to sound the silent alarm. It actually differs with different banks and different branches, but for the most part, those devices are usually reserved for head tellers, managers, assistant managers, maybe if someone in an administrative role at a desk. They will hit the silent alarm when they notice you are almost on your way out versus creating a hostage situation. So it makes sense.
Open the gate. I don't have a key. What'd you say?
Each time I've instructed a bank manager or a head teller to take me into the vault, they usually comply. I always try to take my tone down. What I was able to experience early on, the more you're yelling at a person, the more you're kind of flustering them. When they're under a certain amount of pressure, they break. Was he hiding the key intentionally, or did he just forget? It's hard to say. It's hard to say if they're just flustered. I'd give it around a 6.
Jackson and I will take the vaults because we know how to use the tools.
You two are on crowd control. Make it clear you're in charge or things could get messy.
In this clip, we get to see them doing a little planning of what they're gonna be doing within this bank robbery. I would go over every entry route, every exit. I made it my job to know all the different routes that would get me back to my safe area.
They're almost done with the vault.
I'd always want to be in and out of the vault in 3 minutes, give or take. In a situation where you have a group bank heist or bank robbery, it would probably be a lot easier to make entry into a vault as long as it was open and they knew what they were doing. But if you're a lone robber, like I was, it can be quite risky, but it is a method that I used.
Peralta, cops.
Yes! I mean, oh no, what a bummer, the police!
There was a situation back in '97 where 2 off-duty officers working in a Los Angeles bank, not in a uniform, just posing as a customer within the bank, actually confronted 2 bank robbery suspects, which ended up in one of the suspects dying. But a lot of banks won't hire armed security solely for that matter, because they know that another person inside the bank with a firearm is just more of a chance of engagement. Don't be mad at me, Brooklyn fans out there. I'm gonna give them a 2.
Slow down. 9 speed.
The first thing people would think, well, why are you speeding off? That is just absolute adrenaline. Once a guy told him to slow down, they rolled down both windows. That is something that I actually intentionally did. Typically, you would assume someone trying to get away from something, they'd be trying to be as much incognito as possible.
That's it, come on. No bundles, just loose cash.
One of the bank robbers demanding only loose cash, no bundles. There's this belief amongst bank robbers that so much of the money that come in bundles either have die packs that will explode once you get a certain feet away from the bank, or they'll have tracers in them, which is true. I've come across a tracer before. If it's a bundle, typically be right in the middle. They believe that grabbing just loose currency would prevent them from coming across a die pack or a tracer. Pretty smart, but it does limit the money you get.
Gun? Yeah. Keep up with the circumstances, okay?
Yeah, I got it. So are y'all gonna steal my gun too?
In this scene, we see that the customer has a firearm. That is a huge concern amongst bank robbers. Well, at least it was for me, which is one of the reasons why before I went into the bank, I absolutely would do my homework. I would monitor citizens coming in and out of the bank, how they walked, if they seemed aggressive, if they seemed like they just go more with the program. And it's safe to say that's why I probably only had one guy come at me within all of those robberies. Fortunately, they didn't have a weapon. It's very real, with the exception of them letting the guy keep the gun, just sitting the gun on the counter.
Hey, we should hit that bridge, Jay.
No, we ain't. We hit those banks first thing in the morning.
They robbed 2 banks in the same morning. I'm guilty of that. I knew one bank probably carried a certain amount during that morning, and there was another bank that was in the area. They did it for a different reason. It was clear their first robbery, they didn't get a lot, so their desperation drove them to do a second one within the same day. That was very real. I'll give it an 8.
Finally, something good. Oh, nice.
Most people, whenever you've seen someone trying to rob an ATM, they've usually have a chain around it attached to a truck and them trying to pull it out of someplace. Other thing, as you can see, it's very difficult getting into those things. I personally have never thought about robbing an ATM, but they do hold a lot of currency. So I could see why it would be tempting.
Spider-Man is fighting the Avengers in a bank on 21st Street.
Typically, if a bank has a lot of glass, once it gets dark, it's easy to see inside of those banks. All that glass, it's gonna prevent people from actually seeing in due to the glass reflection. Marvel fans, DC fans, please do not send me hate mail for rating this a 1. My favorite bank robbery scene in the movies that we watch today, definitely The Town. The Town is just on it. I don't think you get any more real than what these guys did here. Click up to the left for your next video. And remember, don't rob banks. Do not rob a bank.